There are only three types of loops or stitches possible in weft knitting: knit, tuck, and float, also called miss, skip, or welt. The use and combination of these three stitches can create a variety of knitted fabric patterns. Let's start with the basic motion of a knitting needle and how it forms a knit stitch. At rest, or in the running position, a knit loop rests above or on the latch. As the needle moves up, the previously formed loop drops below and clears the latch. As the needle moves down, it receives the new yarn in its hook, beginning the formation of a new stitch. The latch is knocked over by the old loop, which is then cast off. The needle moves further down to fully form and complete the new knit stitch. The amount of yarn used to form a new stitch determines the stitch length. This is important because stitch length affects the weight, width, and aesthetics of the fabric, such as drape and hand feel. Here is how the needle travels through various stages. At the rest or running position, the needle runs straight over the rest cam. When it hits the clearing cam, it rides up at a steep angle, forcing the needle to rise and clear the old loop. The needle then drops when it contacts the stitch cam. As it continues on its path, it catches the new yarn. It moves further down, pulling the new yarn far enough for a new loop or stitch to form as the old loop is cast off. The up-throw cam returns the needle to its resting position so it can begin the cycle again. This full cycle creates the first stitch, the knit stitch. When every needle performs this stitch, it creates the most common type of knit fabric, single jersey, which is why it may also be called a jersey stitch. The knit stitch is the foundation of knitting, and knit fabric cannot be completed or formed without it, so it will be present in every type of stitch combination. Each loop has two legs shaped like a V and a crown shaped like an upside-down U. The illustration on the left represents the technical face of single jersey, where the stitches have an overall vertical appearance. On this side, primarily the legs of the stitch are visible rather than the crowns. On the technical back, the crowns are more prominent, giving it a slightly horizontal appearance. Because of this, single jersey is unbalanced, with the fabric curling towards the technical face along the top and bottom of a cut and towards the technical back on the sides. When the knit stitches are alternated between more than one set of needles, such as on a double knitting machine, the legs of the stitch appear on both sides of the fabric, which balances the fabric and prevents curling. The second type of stitch is called a tuck stitch. When forming a tuck stitch, the needle does not rise high enough to fully clear the previous loop, and the needle does not drop down to clearing and stitch formation. Instead, both loops are held at rest until the next cycle. This process is similar to a yarn piggybacking onto the previous stitch. The original stitch will appear elongated. Then, when a full knit stitch is made, both loops rest along the crown, with one loop being tucked behind the other, hence the name tuck stitch. Multiple rows of tucks can be worked sequentially, but too many tucks can overwhelm and break a needle, leading to holes and weak areas in the fabric. Adding tucks to a fabric structure causes more length shrinkage but less width shrinkage, making the finished fabric wider, thicker, and slightly less extensible. Tuck stitches are the basis for PK fabric structures and are popular for sweaters with structures such as the cardigan or half cardigan stitch. Tucks can also be used to hide yarns on the back of the fabric in multicolored patterns. The third type of stitch is called a float stitch or miss stitch. It is sometimes also referred to as a welt, skip, or slip stitch. In this stitch, the needle does not activate at all, instead holding the previous stitch above the latch and allowing the next yarn being fed to float behind the needle. The yarn is not held or worked with any other stitch. This causes the stitch from the previous row to elongate, which is visible on the face of the fabric. Floats cause a fabric to be narrower and much less extensible. Floats can occur over multiple needles sequentially, which is useful for making pattern effects with multiple colors of yarn. The unused color can be floated to the back of the structure, not appearing on the face. When necessary, floats can be secured to the ground with a tuck stitch, which helps to tack down long lengths of yarn. Technical fabrics such as French terry or fleece often feature float stitches. One yarn appears on the face of the fabric, while the other is hidden on the back using tucks and floats.